Hi, and welcome to the Sister's Guide to Financial Freedom. I'm your host, Crystal, and I am joined by my beautiful sister, Jennifer.
Hi, Crystal.
Hey, Jenny. How
Excited to be here with you today.
Yes,
moving into our next topic series.
Yes. So this podcast, again, is all about sharing our knowledge around personal finance on our journeys to financial freedom. This was a passion project for me and for you, and so glad that we're able to work together to bring this to life. But we just felt it really important to share the knowledge, share the resources that we've identified through our financial journeys, and bring people along, learn from people and their financial journeys. I mean, it's so important. There's such a big gap in wealth in this country, especially within the Black communities, that this is our way of trying to help close that gap in any little way that or big way that we can.
We can give back. Mm-hmm. And thank you for having me share with you, as we've shared so many things in our lives, starting with sharing a bedroom until I was 18. But just to share around goal setting. And I think when we were able to chat last time with our brothers, and David brought it up around Dad, really instilling, having a goal, knowing what your plan was for your money. And I think about goals, and we put goals in different things, but do we really take time to put a goal for our money? So even coming down here today, we put the address for this spot in the navigation of the car. We don't just get in the car and start driving. And, here in Chicago, you certainly might see some beautiful sights if you get in and you start heading east and see the lakefront, and DeSable Lakeshore Drive and our beautiful skyline.
Yes.
But you've got a purpose, a destination, somewhere that you're going to. And so we do that in so many things in our day-to-day lives. We have to take that same kind of thought into how we handle, manage, and use our money and really be purposeful about it. So excited to just kind of chat today with you a little bit around goal getting and how we can get goals for ourselves established around how we use our money.
Yes. So many students are encumbered with school debt, and it does help. It does hurt you as you're trying to, transition out of college and start
if you have it in large degrees. Now, there is a side of that argument that education is an investment, because by getting an education and maybe having, I'd say, a manageable amount of student debt, it will afford you to be in a position to have a career or job choice that might be making more income. However, there's a balance in there. And again, we're talking about goals. Goals are taking what you value personally. Not what is the status quo, but what is purposeful or valuable to you. And for us, it was education and really imparting on the importance of that. And so it took us starting 20 years ago, and then starting small, to say we want to be in a position to send our kids to school and not have to rely on student loans. And so researching different vehicles, 529 accounts, custodial accounts, accounts that we could start saving small amounts and on a regular basis. So we put the goal out there and started putting money aside, and then in vehicles that could earn interest, so that we would be in a position that our children could make choices as they got to their college experiences, and again, not feel that they would make one choice over the other because of not having money for it.
Yeah, I think one of my my definition of financial freedom is being able to live and give more abundantly. And I think that's a great example of giving abundantly, because, that's, you're paying it forward to your children. You're, instilling that in your children. And that is definitely a blessing. I know, a lot of people can't do that. And I'm sure it was no small feat to get to that point, because there are lots of sacrifices you have to make in order to make sure you're saving and, fueling those investment vehicles to even get to that point.
We talked about pay yourself first. And it's something I think that if you bring it into your day-to-day life can really help get you on the pathway to financial freedom.
Yes.
So we paid ourselves first through what we had put in as a goal, a specific measurable goal. We wanted to have, a certain dollar amount by a certain period of time. And so we just kind of broke that down into small chunks over a long period of time that enabled us to pay that first and then live off of the rest. So make your other choices off of what is remaining after you've set your goal and put something towards meeting your goal. And it doesn't have to be, a big amount.
Right.
It can be a, small amount. Maybe it's just a short-term goal. Maybe you saw some beautiful dress when you were down at State Streets at Macy's and don't have the cash for it. So look at it, think about what you could break it down into. Well, if I, put $25 here and $25 there, I'm going to, I'm going to be able to, achieve this by that date. So
yeah, you're reminding me of my days of shopping at Eastland Mall in Columbus, Ohio, where me and my friends would go and put our little leather jackets on layaway and pay on them for about 6 months before we could actually get them. But, we didn't have credit cards back then. And if we wanted something, we had to pay cash for it before we could take it away from the store, which, that was one of my goals early on as growing up as a teenager on the east side of Columbus.
Yeah.
But, the one thing that struck me as you were talking about, your education goal and saving for your children's education, it made me think about, that is, you had a huge sense of accomplishment when she graduated, I'm sure, and probably felt very relieved that you had these funds available, that did give you some freedom and flexibility, and you weren't stressed, during that period of her education. You could really enjoy it versus, stressing like, oh, where's the money gonna come from? So, I think that's really important. But, one thing that is clear to me was that it wasn't really about yourself. It was doing the best for someone else. And, when we think about goal setting, as we're thinking through the goal, yes, it should be specific and attainable and actionable, and but you also have to think about what is the why behind that goal. So I listened to this TED Talk called Start with Why, and he has this TED Talk around Start with Why, how great leaders inspire action. And I heard that TED Talk probably 10 years ago. And it's been a recurring theme for me too, as I'm thinking about goals. It's gotta be more than, I want to save $1 million. It's gotta be grounded in, something more emotional. Okay, well, you want to save $1 million. Well, what are you going to do with that? What's your why for that? What's that, emotional, what are you going to receive emotionally once you are able to do that or achieve that goal.
I agree. I mean, it's got to be personal for you. It's, what value do you find in that? Whether it's, a shared value with your partner or spouse or with your children or, with yourself. But you do have to have it rooted in something. So I use this term, the North Star. What's your North Star?
Yes.
What's guiding you towards that? What's the purpose in it all? And I think if you pause and are proactive around it in the beginning, and sometimes things seem like, wow, how am I going to do that? And retirement is one. I'm on a 5-year plan right now for myself. I mean, I've been working over 30 years. One of my kids is out of at least undergraduate school. She's looking at further education, but I will cross that bridge a little differently.
Right.
I'll just say that. But 5-year plan, to retirement. Well, 30 years ago, when I was starting out, thinking about that, it seems so far away and almost so unattainable. If you look at some of what it's going to take to be able, to live in retirement.
Yes.
It can be, kind of mind-boggling.
Right.
But if you start early and you start small, and so
especially if you're trying to maintain the same level of living that you're currently doing now.
Yes. If you want to be able to enjoy retirement, be able to travel, be able to, do things with your grandkids, be able to have some of the, same things that you enjoyed when you were working and don't have that income, but break it down into small components. So, start with what you have, pay yourself first by taking a portion. And again, it can be small, and I don't have the statistics here in front of me. Should have done that for today. Maybe for the next time when we talk about kind of savings.
Yes, we're going to we'll have an episode
I want to do some
on
research
sure.
and talk about savings, because retirement is all about building the savings so that you can do those things that you want to do in retirement. But start small. Just take something out of your income. Pay yourself first. Have a goal. So, my goal for the kids was education. So we looked at vehicles that we could put it in for education. There's 529 accounts, custodial accounts, things that are geared towards saving money for, your children or for educational purposes. And then there's retirement, and, starting with your employer sponsored 401k plans is an easy place to start, because they do all the hard work of picking out the funds. You just, select from what they put in front of you to be available. And a lot of times companies will match them. You put $1 in, they'll put $2 in. Well, all of a sudden you doubled your money just by being a part of the program.
Yes.
So that's not even talking about other things that can help the money grow. So just looking at small things and getting started, putting something aside for yourself towards a goal, and then, you can put it in your shoebox, you can just put it in the bank, you could put it in other vehicles if they're targeted to that. But you want to be doing something.
Yes.
And I think that by doing those small amounts and seeing them grow over time, I'm on a 5-year plan right now. At the end of my career, I'm feeling that I've, at a point where I will have some financial freedom in retirement, because I just started small, putting small amounts of my paycheck aside for retirement, and then every time I got a raise, bumping that up a little bit. Always had a kind of a guiding star of 10%, kind of being the average. When you can, put in 10%. When you can, put in more. When you can't, put in less, but still be putting something aside for that goal.
Yeah. One of the goals that I had recently that I just accomplished was feeling the financial freedom to take a sabbatical from work. So I actually resigned from my job on July 8th and have been dedicating this sabbatical to spending more time with the people that I love and giving back to the community, doing things that we love together. So one thing, I'm spending a lot of time with my two children, my two girls, who are home on summer break, Also, my husband is launching his ministry, Joy Life Center, and I wanted to be present for that. Like you, I've been saving for this time so that I could take the time and not feel like, oh, how am I going to pay the mortgage? How are we going to pay the mortgage if I'm not, contributing financially during this season? But financial freedom for me was being comfortable enough to be able to take the time off to do the things that I wanted to do with my loved ones. So one of the things, if we're talking about goal setting, is examining your money habits. As you're going down this path of planning, whatever goals you have financially, first you need to take a hard look at yourself, like, what am I doing? What are my strengths, my weaknesses, these opportunities, these threats? How am I going through my day, spending my money, and like taking an inventory of everything you're doing, what your lifestyle is, what your passions are, what your values are. Like all of that is part of your personal situation assessment. And I think it is really critical for you to take a look at that, as you're preparing, preparing for these financial, to achieve these financial goals or put your financial plan together. Any thoughts on habits?
I know we grew up in the same household and we heard a lot of the same kind of lessons from our father and values. But that's one, just personally for me, I have tried and consistently failed at. Trying to get a budget, trying to document how my money's being spent, trying to put things into buckets. And my husband can attest to that. I just have not been successful at it. And it's hard. Honestly, that's hard. I don't know that everybody can do that. But it shouldn't discourage you, because there are other ways that you can break it down and not be so, prescriptive and understanding. Yes. And I'm sure at some point we'll be talking about budgeting and everything. So I think you have to have a sense for it, but you may not be able to, because I just have never been able to, break it down, have that type of a specific, kind of plan around the spending. Yeah. But I have been able to find success in setting certain goals, whether it's being in a position to purchase a new car. And we were in a position where we had paid off the car payment on a car, started out, had a car payment, paid it off, kept the car. In fact, we just got rid of our car. We had it 20 years. So it's a good, it was a nice, truck. It was a faithful car. I loved that car. Kids learned to drive on it, but drove it for 20 years. Well, yeah, we had payments on it for the first 5 years of it. But then I started taking, instead of paying the bank, let me pay myself first towards my goal for another car. Yes. So start accumulating that savings for that next goal, kind of piggybacked off of that with the car. And so, that afforded us to be able to, whether it's paid in full or pay with significant down payment, whatever it is, depending on what you choose to do next, but be in a position that you're kind of creating that plan, earmarking or targeting your money towards something of whatever is important to you.
Yeah. And that's funny. The story you shared about the car, I kept thinking about our father, and he would drive his cars till the wheels fell off. And
Still
you
does.
learned that from him. I learned that from him too. I mean, I drove my one of my cars until I couldn't get it to pass the emissions test. And I'm like, darn it, I don't want another car payment. Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at how much you're spending a month on a car payment, there's so much you could be doing, investing that money and letting it grow. I mean, just, it's amazing.
You got to root it in your personal value. But once you determine what your goal is and what's valuable to you, put a plan around it, pay yourself first towards it.
Yes.
And make it happen. Let your money work for you by putting it where you want it to be. Yeah. Not waiting for it to,
yes,
to the end of the month or till it tells you what to do with it, right, or you don't have it, what to do with it. Yeah. Be proactive up front with the things that are important to you, and then make your decisions to learn to live within the means of what's left over.
Well, I will say that I am a little shocked about one thing that you said, that you cannot stick to a budget. I'm like, my mind is blown. I'm like, you
didn't know that?
I can stick to a budget. You can't. Okay. All right, I got one up on you.
You got that on me. I try. I can't. And I've got witnesses in my household that will look at me. But what I do stick to is my goals.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I was able to achieve kids' education fund.
We were able to achieve big things. Right?
We were on the pathway to achieve retirement. Yeah. We were able to achieve home ownership.
Yes.
So again, you like with anything in life, you may not bat 100 all the time. Yes. You're not always hitting home runs. Yeah. But break it down. Find what's meaningful for you. Rooted in your purpose and your values, and then put a plan, put a goal, put a North Star around it, and make it happen for you.
Yes.
And it's going to be different for everybody. We've got a lot of things we can share in common, including our DNA. Yeah. But it's different for everybody. And my goal is different from yours, is just different from somebody else.
That's right.
So
That's right.
Make it work for you.
So at the end of each episode, we're going to introduce this segment called Two Sides of the Coin. So we want to hear from our listeners and viewers on those big questions that they have from a financial freedom standpoint. We want to hear their stories, their questions. Again, this is a journey that we're all taking together, right? So, Jenny and I will share our unique perspectives on that question. So the first question we have is, what is the number one financial goal for people in this country? And so, what do you think is the number one financial goal?
I'm going to stay with the retirement, only because retirement is a goal you're working for your entire working career. So I know I have been, and I've been 30 years in it. And I think it's a long-term goal. I think that, people who are in their career at whatever stage are always thinking about it. Maybe they're not always putting the time and the money into it that they should be. I think certainly in our communities, and I remember seeing an article, it was a U.S. News and World Report back in December 2020, and it was just talking about the racial disparities around savings, and that's probably a segment we could get into in its own, around just the wealth gap because of the income disparities, because of our people's reliance on Social Security to be there and to take care of me in retirement, how we kind of use our money to maintain our life, maybe more so than savings, and not really creating that generational wealth. But I think retirement is and probably should be the goal that everyone's kind of attaining to get to that point where you have financial freedom in your life, so that you can live and maybe even create something that you can pass on to your children or to the next generation.
Nice. Yeah, that's one of my goals in the next 15, 20 years, to retire comfortably. Well, for me, I think the biggest goal right now is getting out of debt. And especially coming out of the pandemic, I think a lot of people have opened up credit cards. They've taken out loans. A lot of people have just had to do what they could do to get through, right? But then also we've got this thing called inflation, where prices on the things, everything that we purchase, from clothing to cars to groceries to whatever it is, anything we're buying costs more right now for a number of reasons. But but it doesn't seem like people are not purchasing as much. They're still purchasing it. So
some of you still have to,
right? Yeah,
food
exactly.
Or gas to get to work.
Yes, exactly.
And,
one of my personal philosophies is to earn interest, don't pay it, which means that I have credit card debt, and it keeps me up at night because I don't like to carry it, but just managing cash flow and, having some major expenses that, I didn't want to dip into savings to pay for. I'm trying to use some credit, use credit to help that float, right? And just pay it slowly over time. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I know I shouldn't be carrying this credit card debt, but I know there are just, millions of people out there who have it and are carrying it and, have to get through. But I think that is one of the, the biggest,
but hopefully
goals out there to pay it off.
Yeah. You put it in your short to medium term goal, something that you want to do within the next 2 to 5 years.
Yes.
Put that to rest.
Yes.
And put it out there as a goal that, hey, I want to pay this credit card off in 3.5 years. So what would it take to do that? Break it down. How much would I have to pay every month? Not just what not letting the bank drive it for you by telling you this is your minimum payment, because then you'll never pay it off. But you're right. If that's important to you and your value is to have that reduction of your credit card as a goal, you got to think about it proactively and then put an action plan behind it, even if it's something small. And then, start working towards that little bit each month, and then you'll look up and surprise yourself that I'm making that last payment on that credit card amount.
I saw this. I saw this meme, and it had the word goals on it, and it said, "Grow what matters, one step at a time. Little by little, your steps will add up." I'm like, that's so clever. But, and that's what it's all about. It's, one step at a time, put one foot forward, tackling one thing, moving on to the next thing, because it's never ending. I mean, you have one goal now for retirement, but you're going to have a whole other set of goals after retirement. But this is, we've come to the end of today's discussion. It went by really fast.
It sure did already.
Yes, it's been a great discussion. I know it's getting me motivated. I've got to go back and figure out what are my new goals. But I really do pray that people are benefiting from these discussions. And to our listeners and our viewers, thank you for tuning in today. And just remember, for any goal that you have, write the vision and make it plain.